If you type in Nick Santo and see a guy with tattoos, no legs, one arm, super handsome, you can't miss me.
He's a global speaker, best-selling author, entrepreneur, and bodybuilder.
This man to my left, I think, is one of the most inspiring people on planet Earth today.
Ladies and gentlemen, introduce Nick
Santonastasso.
Oh!
Most people, when they experience a problem, the meaning that they attach to the problem is that I'm doing something wrong. What if you got excited when there was a problem in front of you because you knew you were about to level up?
How was school life? Did they treat you differently?
I hated the fact that I was born with no legs and one arm. I hated the fact that the kids were taller than me. Girls don't like me and all my friends are dating. I hated all of it. I got to the point where I either kill myself or I figure out how to fall in love with this vessel that I'm stuck with. We think asking for help is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of you're being less than a man, but I can assure you, one of the greatest acts of strength and vulnerability is saying, I need you. I need your help.
What drives you? You wake up every day and you're like this?
The reason why I'm here is because I never feel enough. I keep chasing something that only I can give myself. Maybe one day I'll get my eureka moment. But I also think the reason why a man with no legs and one arm jumps out of bed faster than people with all their arms and all their legs is because
Wow.
just do that and watch what happens.
All right. Welcome back to the Gladiator podcast. Today we have Nick Santonastasso. He's a global speaker, best-selling author, bodybuilder, and entrepreneur who has proven time and time again that the only true limitations are the ones that we place on ourselves. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
That was great. You did a great job.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I was nervous there. I was hesitating for a second.
No problem. A little coaching before and we're on our way.
Is that Italian, that last name?
Yeah,
Nice.
it is.
Amazing.
I went to Italy for the first time a few weeks ago. I took my father.
Amazing.
And I see, in the Gladiator podcast here, we got some
Where'd you
Italy
go?
pictures. I went to Rome. I went
Beautiful.
to Caserta. I went to Amalfi Coast.
Oh,
it was
amazing.
great. Yeah.
Amazing. So Nick, I mean, your story is one that truly redefines what's possible. I just want to reel it back. What was your childhood like? What was it like growing up? And how did you become who you are today? Did you see that before or?
Yeah, absolutely. To give people context of why I look like this is in 1996, my parents went in for a late ultrasound. And when they sat them down, they pulled the baby up on the screen and suddenly everybody started to freak out. My parents are like, what's going on? And they said, well, from the looks of it, it doesn't look like your baby's limbs are being developed. Looks like you're missing his legs, his arms. You might have a cleft palate. And basically in that moment, they classify me with what we call hand-heart syndrome. Hand-heart syndrome is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. So at the time of my birth in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of those babies passed away due to undeveloped organs. So babies would be born and they can't breathe on their own. They can't, eat on their own. They can't process food, and they later on pass away. And so they gave me about a 30% chance to live. My parents went on with the pregnancy. I was born. They did tests on my organs. My organs came back 100% healthy, and the only thing that was affected were my limbs. And so if you're listening to this, I was born with no legs, a short right arm, a full left arm with one finger on it, and a unicorn. And so I'm here living, as my friend would say, living on the bonus round. I'm not supposed to be here, so everything in life is additional. I'm just enjoying the ride. And so from an early age, my parents, one of the greatest superpowers that they gave me was they treated me normal. I had 3 other siblings at the time. I was the baby of the family. And I don't know how my parents knew this, but they knew, maybe intuitively, that if they made everything very easy for me and they put, loops and stepping stools everywhere, that when I was 18 or an adult, I'd be smacked in the face by reality. And so they wanted to create a normal environment for me. And so I'll just give you a few examples, and we can go down whatever rabbit hole that you'd like to go. But a few examples would be, my parents would put my clothes in front of me and at an early age be like, okay, figure it out. And they'd sit with me and watch me tinker with the shirt and tinker with the pants. And, they would give me verbal suggestions, but they never do it for me. Or another example was like food. They would put me in my high chair with food in front of me and they'd say, have at it. And they'd watch their kid struggle. I mean, imagine as a parent how much strength it would require you to watch your kid struggle. I think one of the greatest handicaps that happens as a parent, and I'm not a parent, I'm just speaking from experience of being a kid and observing my parents, is that they do too much for their children. What's very interesting is that you can have all your arms and all your legs, yet most of you are still handicapped and crippled by your upbringing. It's not only a physical disability, but most of the time it's a mental disability. And so there was probably two really important insights that I gained from a very early age as a little boy. The first one was I was accustomed to failure. Failure wasn't something that I was hidden from. Failure wasn't something that I was redirected from. Failure was all over, everywhere. It was my best friend. I failed at putting my clothes on. I failed at feeding myself. I failed at getting on the couch, failed at getting on the chair. And so I understood very early age, I got wired into my brain that failure was a part of the process. And if I have an empowering relationship with failure, I'll attack life in a more empowering way. But ultimately, the faster that I fail, the faster that I get feedback. The faster that I get feedback, the more that I can succeed. The second thing that was probably extremely valuable insight and something that wired and anchored into my brain was I was forced to be solution oriented. I think one of the greatest problems and the greatest pattern that most humans and entrepreneurs fall short of is they spend too much energy on the problem and not enough energy on the solution. What's pretty interesting is when you look at the brain, your problems need focus to live. So I want you to just pretend that your focus is like gasoline. Your problem is a small fire.
Yeah.
You can have a teeny weeny problem, but if you focus all your energy on it, it becomes massive and overwhelming to the point where you think it's this massive and overwhelming thing. And so at an early age, I became solution oriented, and I've taken those two insights and brought it into business, into entrepreneurship. Failure is a part of business. Most people aren't willing to suck long enough to be great at something. So that's another thing. But I became a best friend with failure and became very solution oriented.
And how do you think your parents knew to not kind of baby you through these situations? Was that just intuitive? They just knew that they have to, train you not train you, but present these obstacles to you from an early age? Or how did they even know to approach life that way? Because most parents don't, you know?
That's a great question. I think the term we would use in business is split testing.
Okay.
Right? And so like they already had 3 kids. And so maybe they had some knowledge and experience, but who knows? Or maybe it was some sort of intuitive wisdom, a download that they got from God, source, whatever you believe in. I'm not really sure. I can call them after this interview and be like, hey, why did you do that? But I think also my dad is a man's man. He's tough.
Yeah.
He's a tough dog. He's an old head.
Old Italian dude.
Yeah, old Italian dude. And so it's like, it is what it is. And, I even remember being a young boy and my mom's goal for me in life was to be happy. And then if I asked my dad's goal in life, he would say, you need to make money. Like, I don't care that you have no legs and one arm, Nick. You need to figure out how you're going to financially support yourself because mom and dad are not going to be around forever.
Wow. Regardless of your syndrome and everything, like he
regardless,
still said you got to figure out how to make money
regardless.
Wow.
And it's weird. It's very weird because my dad, he's gonna love this. He's always right in some sort of way. He's always right. And so like even with that frame of like, hey, you need to figure out how to make money. Yeah. But also check this out, which I'm just getting this insight now. Every single man, our role is to be a provider. And so maybe him pushing me that way was for me to be just more of a confident man, because I think if you're a man right now and you don't have maybe finances in order, you don't feel like a man. And maybe as a man or a young kid with no legs, one arm, there's a lot of times where I feel inadequate and I don't feel like a man. So if you push me to win in this area, I'd probably feel more confident about myself. I don't think without my dad being so hard on me that I probably wouldn't be out here trying to prove him wrong. Yeah, I've already proved it. I've already, achieved it. Not even prove him wrong, but transmute that energy as fuel to go build big things, right? So I think it's very interesting. And for those that are listening, especially the men, right? Women can be gladiators, but if we're talking to the men right now, I think one of the greatest things that you can do is focus on your skill sets, focus on your body, and focus on your mindset and become a more valuable man. The truth is, as men, we need to do a lot more to be seen. We need to be in good shape. If you're not blessed with height, God bless you. You got to figure out other things. If you're not good looking, maybe you can become valuable and have money. And so I think ultimately men need to focus on themselves becoming more valuable, because, there's a quote, success isn't something that you attract. Success isn't something that you pursue. Success is something that you attract by being attractive. And so as a man, how are you going to build yourself into an attractive figure? Right. And I think that was my intention as a man with no legs but an arm. I realized that I couldn't change the no legs but an arm, but I can find ways to be attractive.
Damn. Wow, bro. Okay, so growing up, did you feel different, or did your parents make you feel completely like your normal, you're living your life, you just have some slight adjustments? Or did you feel different? I mean, how was school life like? Like, was there any, did they treat you differently, or did they treat you just like a normal person? Or
Yeah, the hard truth is, as a 28-year-old man sitting in front of you for 19 years of my life, I hated myself. I hated the fact that I was born with no legs and one arm. I hated the fact that the kids were taller than me. I hated the fact that I couldn't ride a bike like you could. I hated the fact that you got girlfriends and I didn't. I hated all of it. And of course, you could put on a smile and you can soothe and you can distract. And I think I distracted in a lot of ways. I think I distracted with video games. I think I distracted with food. I think I distracted with good friends. I had good friends. But ultimately, I felt like the beacon of light for the family. And if the beacon of light isn't happy, the whole thing crumbles. I felt like the glue. I felt like the thing that held the family together. And I didn't want to be a burden. And so I would never communicate my problems. I would never communicate the things that I was struggling with, because I didn't want to bring the energy down to the family. And so what's pretty interesting is my sisters didn't even know that I had suicidal thoughts until they saw a podcast of me as an adult.
Wow.
And I think that's a message for a lot of people, women and mostly men, is oftentimes we think asking for help is a sign of inadequacy. We think asking for help is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of you're being less than a man. But I can assure you that the strongest men understand that they don't have to carry the cross alone. They don't have to carry the burden alone. And one of the greatest acts of strength and vulnerability is saying, I need you. I need your help. I'm struggling. Give me some insight. Give me some wisdom, or just be there for me. You know, like we can dive into my whole brother's story of him passing away, but I think one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle with addiction as well is because they don't want to ask for help. They don't get help too soon. They wait too long to get help. And so, yeah, I hated myself. And I would do anything I could to distract myself from the fact that I had no legs and one arm. And what's really interesting is humans will change for two reasons. We'll either change for pain or we'll change for pleasure. But humans will always run away from pain faster than they'll run towards pleasure. That's why we don't leave the toxic relationship until they hit you or they become emotionally abusive. You don't start going to the gym until the doctor says you're going to die. You don't leave the 9 to 5 until you hit your pain threshold. And so there's a lot of spiritual teachers that will give you all different kinds of advice. And I'll give both sides of the story. You can change from a place of pain, or you can change from a place of pleasure. Some teachers will say, why wait for the pain to change? You could change right now, and I agree with that. But I also agree some of the most successful people, the reason why they're there is because they endured so much pain that they would do anything to get out of the fire. And so for me as a 15, 16-year-old kid, I'm a chubby Italian kid who loves food. Girls don't like me. I don't have a girlfriend. All my friends are dating. I'm not going to winter formals and proms. And I got to the point where I either kill myself or I figure out how to fall in love with this vessel that I'm stuck with. And I chose to fall in love with the vessel and figure out how to upgrade the psychology, because I didn't have the strength to kill myself. A lot of people talk about it, but most people won't do it. And oftentimes, everything that we do is to meet a need. And what I mean by that is most people gossip because they want to feel connection. Most people talk about their suicidal thoughts, or they talk about their mental health because they don't want to feel alone, or they want to rationalize of why they stay the same. But everything that we do is to meet a need.
Right.
And so I wanted to get out of the fire. And the way that I wanted to get out of the fire was I wanted to become an athlete. I wanted to become a gladiator. And the sport that I decided to pursue was wrestling. And the reason why I decided to pursue it is because my older brother was a wrestler. I always looked up to my older brother. I thought he was the most coolest, strongest man besides my dad, was always doing physical activities. And at the time, my right limb, for those that are listening, was about 5 inches longer than it is now. My bone was going faster than my skin. And it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. And so I was always, hiding my arm. I couldn't really do physical activities. And I was in such pain that I went home one day and I sat both my parents down. I said, can we cut my arm off? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I want to become a wrestler, but I cannot become a wrestler because my arm is going to poke through my skin. Is there any sort of procedure that we can do to get this thing out of here? And they said, is this something that you really want to do? And I said, absolutely. And so as a 16-year-old kid, they found the best surgeons. They rolled me into the appointment, and I woke up, and 5 inches of my arm was gone.
Oh my God.
And I swear I was the happiest kid that just cut his arm off.
Oh my God.
I was liberated. And I went back to school. I told everybody that I was going to become a wrestler. People said, you're absolutely insane. And I said, I'm not only going to become a wrestler, I'm going to become the starting wrestler for the high school. And 2 years later, I was the starting 106-pound varsity wrestler for my high school.
No way.
And my life started to change.
Insane. Okay. Was there like a point where you had like a eureka moment or an epiphany where you're like, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to use this as something that holds me back, and I'm going to transmute this to something that pushes me forward. Was there a moment, or like at what point did you shift from, turning this very negative situation into a very, very positive situation? Like, how did that happen? Was it the wrestling, or was there a specific moment, or was it a gradual thing?
I think it was gradual, right? Because ultimately I was always pushing the limits, right? Even as a young boy, I was skateboarding and I was riding 3-wheeled bikes, and I was going to the skate park, and I was flipping and doing gymnastics with my sisters. Like I was always pushing myself. But I think there was a specific moment where I felt the feeling that we're all pursuing. As a senior wrestler, I was terrible, but I was still the starting wrestler. I was 2-17, and I came off the mat one day after getting my butt kicked, and this mom came up to me crying. I was like, oh man, what did I do wrong? And she got down to my level and she said, Nick, I want to thank you. I said, what, for entertainment? Like I just lost. Like, what are you thanking me for? And she looked up at the bleachers and she said, my daughter's over there in the sideline. And I can assure you, Nick, my daughter never wanted to do a sport. She never wanted to do an extracurricular activity. But seeing you out there, win or lose, she asked me to try new things while I was sitting next to her. You not only motivated her, you not only inspired her, but you did something to her brain, and I want to thank you for it. And in that moment, I had a eureka moment, or in that moment, I had an aha moment, because I felt the fuzzy feeling of fulfillment. That's what we're all seeking, is the feeling of fulfillment, is the feeling of I'm doing something of purpose, I'm serving, I'm changing, I'm of value. And in that moment, I said, whatever this feeling is, I want more of that. And what's pretty interesting as humans is we do everything for feelings. When you watch this podcast and you get motivated, like you don't want the Lamborghini, you want how the Lamborghini is going to make you feel. And then you're going to buy the Lamborghini and that feeling is going to go away and you're going to have your own eureka moment, right? You're going to get a specific amount of money and realize that it doesn't change you. But oftentimes we're just looking for a feeling, right? The quality of our life comes down to the quality of the emotions we feel on a day-to-day basis. That's why you know a lot of rich people who are poor, and you know a lot of poor people who are rich. Because they don't feel the things that they want to feel. And so I wanted this specific feeling. And so that was a light bulb moment. And that catapulted me into creating content. That catapulted me into becoming a prankster, a famous prankster on Vine. Okay. Like that was a massive shift in timeline because I wanted to feel that feeling. But if I also look at the little boy who was wounded, the little boy just wanted to be seen. The little boy just wanted to be loved. He just wanted to be acknowledged. The little boy just wanted to feel enough. And when people came up to me and said I helped them in some way, I finally felt enough.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you often talk about viewing challenges as opportunities. Can you share an example? I mean, you just did, but when you turned a major obstacle into an opportunity for growth?
My life. I'll give the psychology of why this is so important, and I'll give you a specific example. The meaning you attach to the experience becomes the experience. Don't miss it. The meaning that I attach to the experience becomes the experience. And as human beings, we are meaning-making mechanisms. This whole entire podcast, you're attaching meanings to things, even in your brain. When you walk outside those doors and things are going to happen to you in traffic and your girl and this and that, you're going to attach meanings to it. And based on the meaning, you're going to either feel good or you're going to feel bad. Most people, when they experience a problem, the meaning that they attach to the problem is that I'm doing something wrong. But what if the meaning that you gave problems was a sign from your creator that you're moving in the right direction? What if the meaning that you attached to challenges wasn't that it was a setback, but it was a worthy opponent in the arena? What if you got excited when you got faced with challenges? What if you got excited when there was a problem in front of you because you knew you were about to level up? I can assure you, people sitting on their couch watching Netflix have a different set of challenges than ones that are in the arena. So turning a challenge into an opportunity, my whole life, but I'll give you a specific example. When the big C hit, when COVID hit, at that time I was about 4 years into my speaking career, and my only source of income was speaking, was keynote fees, meaning Nick has to show up, and if Nick doesn't show up, Nick doesn't get paid, right? So my whole entire business model was reliant on in-person events. A month before that hit, I moved my organization and my team from Miami, Florida, or Tampa, Florida, to Vegas. Vegas was one of the biggest capitals of events. I was like, okay, if I build relationships with meeting planners here, I don't have to travel. I could just do my business in Vegas. I moved to Vegas a month before COVID hits. And then COVID hits, and hundreds of thousands of dollars are gone. The contracts, the meeting planners, everything gets canceled.
Wow.
Now, there was two types of people during that time period. The first person was like, I'm just going to wait until the world comes back to normal. They got crushed. And then there was the second type of person who started observing, looking around, and started analyzing the trends and the patterns and found what the successful people were doing, and they pivoted. And so in that moment, there was probably 3 weeks of like, oh, shoot, we're going to die. You know, my whole business is crashing.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment of looking around and observing what successful people were doing. And in that moment, I went from a professional storyteller to digging my well so deep of digital marketing, course creation, storytelling, online facilitating, you name it. When people stopped speaking, I spoke more. When people stopped training, I learned new skill sets. And so by the time that COVID was over and the world came back to normal, I already had a digital company that was generating hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that's an example of taking a challenge that would crush most people and took it as a time to dig my well of knowledge deeper so I can provide more value to the world, serve people digitally, and now both businesses are firing off.
What drives you? You wake up every day and you're like this? Are you just fired up every single morning? Like what's driving you inside every single morning when you wake up and you just, what's next for Nick? Like Nick is just flourishing and inspiring so many people. Are you just in awe of your life, how it's turned out? Or is it kind of just being attracted to and you're just surrendering to wherever it takes you?
The reason why I'm here is because I never feel enough. The little boy believes that if he builds big things and he builds more followers and more people take pictures with him, one day he'll love himself. And so I keep chasing something that only I can give myself. And who knows what age the little boy will turn into a man and heal himself. So until then, I'll build big things. I'll become more famous, make more money, learn new skills. And maybe one day I'll get my eureka moment. But I also think the reason why a man with no legs and an arm jumps out of bed faster than people with all their arms and all their legs is because I've adopted the mentality of romanticizing with my future. I take time to think about my future, what I want, who I want to serve, who I want to build, and I create my future so good that I create what we call a level of empowered anticipation. And if I can create a level of empowered anticipation, I can move swiftly in the action. The truth is, most people take the vision of their past and they place it on the screen of their future, and they live the same damn life for 50 years. And so is my methodology sustainable? Come back to me in 10 years. Come back to me in 20 years. But I think most people build big things is because they're hurt. And nothing in the external world will fill your spiritual hole internally. And so we'll just keep chasing and keep chasing and keep chasing. And then maybe one day I'll just stop it all because I realize none of it really matters. But I don't really know. I think wounds are driving me. And I think maybe there will be a moment where I operate from a place of healed and not wounded, but I'm not there yet.
That's interesting because, most people are unaware of their wounds. And it's just driving them unconsciously, but you're aware of your wounds and you're still aware that you don't feel like you've healed them. Or do you think it's just your life force, like you're just fulfilling your purpose, whatever God gave, whatever cards God gave you?
What's interesting is I think I'm aware of the wounds, but there's so many wounds that I'm not aware of. What's interesting about personal development is the more work you do on yourself, the less you think you need it. I'm the biggest rationalization ever. I think I'm perfect. I think I'm great. That's the biggest lie I can feed myself, right? And so that's why it's important to surround yourself with coaches. I always tell my students, if your coach doesn't have a coach, get a new coach. Because everybody has blind spots. Yeah. Everybody has weaknesses. And so I'm aware of wounds, but I'm not aware of all of them. I'm sure there's a few bleeding out somewhere. But the curiosity of the pursuit of identifying those wounds and evolving and expanding, I think that's the great gift. But also the other thing that drives me, which in a more empowering light, is I believe every 60 to 80 years, someone comes along and changes the whole bloodline. There's one gladiator in the arena that changes the whole entire bloodline. That goes from peasant to emperor. That goes from slave to gladiator. And for me, I'm the one. And I don't take it lightly. And I realize that my creator, God, whatever you believe in, has put me in a unique vessel, and I have to maximize this vessel so I can change the whole entire bloodline. Because the truth is, pain is passed down the bloodline until someone's ready to feel it. And in order to heal it, you have to feel it. And I'm the one in the family that's feeling it all. And I'm going to feel it so I don't pass that baggage down to my lineage. I think the most selfish thing that you can do is not do work on yourself and then pass it down to your bloodline. How dare you? And so I'm the one. That's why I get up. When I'm tired, when I don't want to speak, when I don't want to travel, when I don't want to do podcasts, when I don't want to talk to people, I remember that my family's still working. I'm not done yet.
On that note, I got a question for you. So if people build great big things from wounds, are wounds necessary? Do we need wounds to build big? Is it a positive thing if that's the case? To be a high performer, to be a high achiever, since we're all operating out of this hole that we need to fill, are these holes a good thing in a way, or is that disguised as a superpower?
I think we're all holy. I think we all got holes. Check it out. I mean, someone born poor, they got a lot of trauma. Someone born in a toxic family, they got trauma, the things they have to deal with. And then you have someone who is fed everything. They got a whole different level of trauma. Maybe their parents went around, they got raised by the nanny. Or they don't know what hard work look like. That's a trauma in itself. You don't know what grit is. So we all got holes. And so I think everybody has trauma and everybody has wounds. And I think having wounds, which we all do, gives you a great opportunity to evolve. If we came to this human experience, right? So say we're floating around before there, do our soul contract. They're like, you're going to go in this life. They're like, where are you bringing me? They said, we're going to take you to Earth. What's Earth? Well, in Earth, you're going to get cheated on. In Earth, you're going to get rejected. In Earth, your parents aren't going to love you in the ways that you want. In Earth, you're going to get spit on. You're going to get modern day crucified. And they say, wow, I'm so excited. Because if we came to Earth and everything was certain and everything was perfect, we get bored and we want to go somewhere else. So the contrast is what gives life the juice. And so I think we all came here to experience contrast, to be separated from source, and to walk ourselves back to home when we leave.
So some people don't go and build great things. So this feeling of not enoughness drives so many entrepreneurs and so many business people and so many creators. So is it better to not fill that hole of not enoughness so we can keep building great things? That's kind of my question, this dilemma. It's like, imagine you felt whole from birth, or you reached this healed moment of yourself. You wouldn't have given this gift to the world of your soul, of your spirit. Is that a positive thing or is that a negative thing? I mean, for yourself, yes, you're healed and you feel whole and complete. But for the world, I mean, if it didn't give you that drive to get out and do everything and share your message and inspire tons of people, it would be such a loss for the world, right? So
lucky them. But I think there is no positive or negative. Actually, I think there just is. Just is what it is, right? And so, but also there's an evolution from wounded to healed. I don't think you're ever fully healed, but I'll give you a great example, because although I'm still building from a place of wounded, I won't take money if it's not in alignment. I won't share the message if it's not in alignment. So I'm not so wounded where I'll do anything to get a buck.
Right.
So there's been a massive evolution in Nick, right? Maybe younger Nick would do anything to get money. Now I move a little bit differently. I'm way more aligned, way more premium, way more exclusive, right? I don't need anybody, right? And so I think in that sense of wound to healed, you start to value yourself more and you start to cipher out different opportunities, different people. And so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm fully wounded because I've healed a bunch. So I think you get to a place of desperation to abundance. I think you get from a place of scarcity to, once you feel enough, you start moving differently, different proximity, different relationships, different deals, saying no more. So I think there's an evolution to it.
At what point in your journey did you go from that, make that shift from needing to not needing, from scarcity to abundance, to being like, hey, if I don't want to work with you, I don't want to work with you? Like, was there a point in time? How do you make that transition for somebody who maybe they're feeling a little bit in their neediness? They need business, they need to drive business, or whatever the case is, they need more deals. How do they operate from a place of having as opposed to needing?
It's a great question because I'm a needy man. When it comes to relationships too, with women, it's like I can fall into a needy trap. I just want to be loved. Right?
Yeah.
The wounded kid just wants to be loved. Just wants to be held. But I think the great example is like dating, like high school dating, right? So let's give high school dating an example. For the ladies, when the guy is obsessed with you, you don't want the guy. When the guy leans out and doesn't show as much interest, you're obsessed. It's just like the world. When I lean out, you lean in. When I lean in, you lean out. And so how can you apply that to business? When you walk into a room and they feel like you need the deal, you ain't going to get the deal. The moment you feel that you've lost it, you've already lost it.
Right.
The moment you think you've already lost it, you've lost it. And so any opportunity for those that are listening, no matter what your net worth is, no matter what your level is, start going into opportunities willing to walk away from the deal. Just exercise the frame.
Yeah.
It's all about the frame. But also love all parts of yourself and all seasons of yourself, because the moments you experience your needy self are opportunities for you to heal. You only get to use the tools when things don't go your way. You only get to work on your neediness when you're needy. You only get to work on your insecurity when you're insecure. So love it all, right? And so regardless of what spot or what season that you're in, I want you to love all seasons. And I want you to love all parts of yourself. And I want you to love the contrast, because it'll all give you an opportunity to heal. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm never needy, because sometimes I fall into a needy energy.
Yeah.
But the awareness is the key. So once I'm aware that I'm needy, I can analyze and say, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
Tracking?
Okay, I'm gonna go somewhere where maybe, I'm sure you've been asked this before, about dating. What's dating like for you? Are you dating someone right now? And what's it like when your love relationships? Are you seeking someone in similar situations or same energy, or does it like how do people react in your dating life, just out of
It's a great
curiosity?
question. Yeah. It's a great question. So one of the biggest breakthroughs that I got from dating was, I'll give you two things. The first thing was, my body is a human filter. Meaning, if someone doesn't want to be with me or be intimate or be in proximity, do business, be a friend because of my body, that is God, the universe immediately saying, this is not the type of person that needs to be in your life. But also an evolved version of Nick would have compassion for that person, because spiritually or consciousness level wise, they're on a very low level, very low vibration, and I feel for them and I love them to elevate. Old Nick would be like, screw you.
Yeah.
Evolved Nick would be like, I hope you evolve. There's more to life, right? So I understand that my body is a human filter. The second thing is, authenticity is the highest vibration. Oftentimes, especially in dating, one of the patterns that we fall into is we think we need to perform for the girl.
Right.
You want to set the table real high, and want the Rolls Royce, and you want to take them to the best thing, and you start to perform. And then you got to keep that frame the whole time. Yeah. And you're not being your authentic self. And you can never let that guard down, so you're performing the whole time. So that's another thing, just insight for those that are listening, is don't perform, just be yourself, right? Authenticity is the highest vibration. And if you can operate off that, energy attracts energy. The other thing that I noticed, though, whether it was, right, me dating women or me building brothership with men, there's been so many times in my life where people are deep in conversation with me and then they say, I totally forgot that you have no legs and one arm. And that was a breakthrough for me, realizing that it was just reaffirming that everything is energy. If the aura is so strong and the presence is so strong and the mission is so strong and I'm direct, the physical body fades, they don't see it. And that was the biggest breakthrough I had with women, was realizing that I can dissolve the whole physical body if the aura is strong and the presence is strong enough and I'm on mission, right? So if you look at what you have immature masculine, I won't get into it, but you have immature masculine and you have mature masculine. Mm-hmm. What a mature masculine man is someone who's on mission, someone who knows exactly what he wants, someone who's striving to be better. He's taking care of his body, he's taking care of his mind. Just do that and watch what happens. Wow. And so about a year and a half ago, I ended a 5-year relationship. And right now, I'm in a season of building Nick. And those that want to come along with the journey, if they align and they fit, so be it. If not, I'm not seeking. You know, there's a quote, boys seek, men attract. Don't be a seeker. Just be the greatest version of man and watch the magic happen. Just work on your mental health, work on your physical health, work on becoming valuable and walk the path. And for those that want to walk the path, so be it. But what's also interesting is you attract, in relationships, you attract exactly who you are. Well, they keep finding the not so good girls. It's because you ain't not so good dude. I keep finding shallow girls because you're a shallow dude. I keep finding insecure women because you're insecure, bro. Yeah. You attract who you are. The universe is a mirror for you. It's going to give you exactly what you are. And so I'm just working on being the greatest version of myself and letting the magic happen. You see, the greatest moments are the moments where you're like, how did that happen? There's no way. Or something that hit you from left field. And so if you want to invite more magic into your life, just work on being the greatest version of yourself, not attach to outcomes, and watch some random girl fall into your life. That's going to rock your world. Wow. And enjoy it while it's there. Because who knows when it's going to leave. But the other thing as well is be open to everything and attached to nothing. We get too attached. Men and women get too attached. Be open to everything and attached to nothing. Nothing's yours. Nothing's your property. It's all God's. We're just here to rent. Right? So for me at this time, dating in Dubai is interesting. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep being myself and let my energy attract who I am. But be open to it. I think a lot of men and a lot of women get hurt and they get destroyed and then they get closed off. And my frame and my intention is I'm just going to be an amazing lover. And if someone destroys me, at least I know that I was an amazing lover. It is what it is. Amazing.
That's crazy you're saying that, you know, the body dissolves. Because I'm talking to you right now and all I notice is your presence. I completely forget that you have any sort of, you know, disabilities or anything, whatever we want to call it, but it's absolutely true. Like it's just your presence, and I'm just looking at you in your eyes, and I have completely forget that you're any different from me. And sometimes when I'm looking at you and talking to you, and you know, I spoke with you actually at the Gladiator Summit, and I'm like, I forget that you have any sort of disability. I just look at you as a completely normal person living a very flourishing, abundant life, and that's amazing. It really is amazing.
I appreciate it. That's just a testament to psychology. Yeah. Right? You know, if you're watching this and you're listening right now and you're like, the man with no legs and arm is doing more than me in my life, it's not a superior thing. I'm not better than you. I'm not taller than you. I'm not stronger than you. It's I know information that you don't know, and I have a different set of beliefs and software system. That's all it is. So it's obtainable. There's hope. But you have to be curious for the information, and you got to be curious to learn more about yourself. And what I've also realized as well is, because I coach and I teach, But I'm shifting into this place that I realize the most important work that I need to be doing is not on anyone else, but it's on myself. And it's in the privacy of my own heart. And if I can just be a better version of myself and love people, I can have them. They can find their way. But I'm shifting from a place of like trying to fix people versus I'm just gonna fix myself.
And why did you make that shift? Do you find it difficult to try and fix people? Is that
Of course. Because then you create expectation and they never meet up to your expectation, and then you're always disappointed. And I got no legs of an arm, so I ain't trying to drag you over the finish line.
Right.
You got to do your own thing, right? And so the best thing that we could do is just lead from the front, just be a positive example. And now that the way that I teach and the way that I communicate is I'll just offer a suggestion. I'm not telling you that you need to live your life the way that I live my life. I can just offer a suggestion, offer some insight, and you try it on. And if it feels good and you try it on and the shoe fits, run with it. But I don't need to scream until I'm blue in the face to a camera to tell you to change your life. I'll just be the best version of myself, and if it invokes spark and change, so be it.
So when you're coaching people, when you're about to take on a client, how do you start? How do you evaluate their life, and how do you begin your process, and where do you try to take them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what's most important is identifying people's needs. What you want is different what the next person wants. For example, when I teach communication and speaking students, some people want to learn how to create irresistible offers. Some people don't care about the offer. They just want to learn how to storytell or speak confidently in front of camera. And so I think any person who offers a product or a service or is trying to change someone or shift someone, you have to understand their model of the world, where they are and where they want to be, and then create it, right? And so I'm programmed to just identify people's needs. What are you struggling with?
Right.
What are your challenges? What are your problems? Where are you now? Where would you like to be? What would be a home run for you? What would if you got coaching with me for 3 months, like what would be the number one outcome you want to achieve? And sometimes their outcome is easier than what I thought for them.
Right.
So why do more work? I just have to identify your model of the world and see where you are and then guide you. But ultimately, I feel like it's also a contradiction because you look at a lot of spiritual gurus and they'll say your path is the way.
Yeah.
So who cares which way you go?
Right.
But I could just be a guide. So let's identify the path, where you are, where you want to be. I'll let you know. There's some booby traps over there. There's some tigers over there. This would be really good for you to learn. You should probably look at that. Let me reflect this back to you. But ultimately, your path is the way. So be it.
And how has you changing or becoming this version of you impacted the people that are close to you? Has it rubbed off? Has it changed? You're talking about leading from the front. How has that impacted the people around you? Because oftentimes I say, the best way to change the world is to change yourself.
Yeah. I think I won't really know. I'll never really know the trickle effect, what goes on deep in people's psyche. But I think small changes, like maybe eliminating vices, maybe striving for knowledge, maybe getting healthier, maybe working out more, maybe loving more, maybe meditating more.
Yeah.
I think these are all very interesting changes that I could see with the people around me. I think one of the most beautiful changes is my parents coming to me for advice and insight. And they value my opinion. What would you do here? How would you invest? Or what skills are important? Where should we live? What should we do? Right? They value it. My siblings, like sharing wins and being positive or not bringing negativity into the conversation. But ultimately, it's very interesting because I get to the point where it's like I don't really want to change anyone. You gotta do it for you, right? And so I'm just gonna be the best version of me. I think we get disappointed in people because we set expectations, especially in relationships. We romanticize with what they could be versus what they are, and then they fall short, and we don't like it.
What's the next version of you? Is there next? Do you try to
6'3",
6'3",
yeah.
jacked?
Yeah. The next version of me. There's a more loving Nick. There's a more compassionate Nick. There's a more empathetic Nick. There's a more fit Nick. There's a more driven Nick. There's a more grounded, calmer Nick. But I don't think you never reach the destination.
Yeah.
And so I'm just doing the best I can each and every day. and loving myself for that.
Do you get frustrated with day-to-day things? Like, do you still get frustrated, or has it gone down? Like, how just dealing with daily things that maybe are slightly more difficult?
Yeah, bro. Although I promise I'm not a clone. I'm a human, and yeah, I get aggravated. I get angry, and one of the greatest muscles or skills that I've implemented is just the process of realigning energy. You know, everything is energy and everything is vibration. So, for example, when you turn on this podcast, it's not the only podcast that's streaming. It's the only one you're tuned into. And I think daily, multiple times a day, there needs to be a practice and an intentionality to realign energy. You have beautiful states and you have suffering states. When you feel a suffering state, you got to take a step back and realign energy through breath work, meditation, prayer, intention, whatever it is. And so I get pissed off and angry, but those give me a window of an opportunity to realign energy. And I think the more that you realign energy, you're in suffering states minutes versus days. But we're all going to get pissed off and angry. Just have some compassion for yourself and get back on the train and realign energy.
How do you realign energy?
For me, meditation. So I'm a massive Dr. Joe Dispenza fan, student, quantum theory, meditation, going into the blindfold, going into the quantum. And so meditation for me has been a game changer. And what's interesting is most people listening right now think meditation is you close your eyes and like, they have no idea what they're actually doing. And so I would invite you to learn more about quantum theory, becoming nowhere, becoming no one, becoming nothing, and creating from a place of the field. What if I were to tell you that all of us can close our eyes with enough practice and plug into the computer of an infinite intelligence, God, and get all the downloads, all the wisdoms, all the guidance. And so that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time.
Yeah, you know what? You're talking about Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm also a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. His intensive course changed my life. I basically had like kind of an awakening experience there in my life. It was like a moment from his first. I never meditated, and then I sat down for the first time to meditate off of his course, and it was like a 2-hour meditation right out of the gate for someone who's never meditated before. And I woke up from that meditation and I wasn't the same person. My name is not Quantum Shake. And like, I literally looked in the mirror and my pupils were dilated from this experience. And it happened day after day, me and my wife at the same time. And it put me on this crazy long spiritual journey. And now I've ended up here in Dubai in front of you. But
let's go.
Yeah.
Quantum Shake. The identity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Who you're going to come be as.
Yeah.
Who you're going to come back as. Come back to me in a new body, in a new time. Yeah.
So much has changed. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent for meditation and quantum field, and Dr. Joe Dispenza as well.
It's real, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad that you're in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got the whole identity too.
Well, it's not an identity, it's just an Instagram handle. It's nothing. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, you know what? I had this experience, and I've transformed so many times, it's just a never ending unfolding, as you would know, so so for you, what legacy do you hope to leave behind, not just for your audience but for the world?
It's a worthy opponent, this question, because if I may be direct, I think about like the most famous people in the world. Like you look at like Kobe Bryant, like a couple years after, no one talks about him. One of the most famous people in the world. Years go by, the tree's still tree, the bird's still bird, the car's still car, the Burj Khalifa still Burj Khalifa. This is what it is. So it doesn't really matter. I don't know. So I don't know if I have a right answer for that question. I think for me, legacy more is showing my bloodline what was possible and the people that were closest to me. And in addition, if the world takes influence from it and they love what I do, so be it. But I want to move away from the place of like feeling I have to prove myself to the world. I think it's a slippery slope. But I will go down as the most handsome man with no legs, one arm. That's my legacy.
I can see that. I can 100% see that. Does getting doubted or overlooked or overseen, is that a driving factor for you at all?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
My whole life.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't supposed to live. Wasn't supposed to dress myself, feed myself. Wasn't supposed to be independent. Now those doctors are dead and I'm wealthy and successful.
Love it.
It's driven me my whole life. Even early on, speaking, people told me, not directly but indirectly, I only get stages because I'm disabled. I'll never be over a $5,000 speaker. He doesn't have any business experience. He's too young. And I took all of that and I became an expert in NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, experimental therapy, inner child trauma. Oh, I'm not tactical enough? Great. I'll get so tactical to when I'm on stage, you won't want me on stage because I'm so good. Then I'll make all of you look bad. And so it's been a massive driving force.
Feels good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, I got a rapid fire round. Let me see what we got here. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think it was the latest one that I said. The only work that you need to be doing is on yourself in the privacy of your own heart. Don't try to fix anyone. Just work on yourself. Stay in your lane, bro.
Love it. What's a book that's changed your life or you recommend?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Dr. Joe.
Oh man. Do you have a mantra that you have when times get tough?
I'm divinely guided and I'm divinely protected.
One thing people get wrong about you.
They think I'm an extrovert. When in reality, I'd rather be sitting in my house with no one.
Fair enough. Your dream collaboration or partnership?
One? I get one?
No. You get three.
I get three? Okay, great.
Just putting it out there into the universe, see if it comes back.
Ronaldo. Russ, the rapper. Sheikh Hamdan.
Wow. And what would these collaborations look like? I mean, you got sports, music, and I don't know, kingship.
Ronaldo would be us doing an extreme sport together or something that makes him uncomfortable, me uncomfortable, but we coach ourselves through it. Whenever you're ready. That would be a collaboration. And then, of course, sitting down and dissecting his champion mindset, right? Getting really deep on that. So that'd be great. Russ would be music, of course. So I have a whole album, a music album that is actually being released, dripped out this year, the new year. It's a rap and hip hop album. So that's something.
Are you rapping?
Yeah.
Bro, you got to give us a bar.
Rap and singing.
Something. You got to give us something.
Right now?
Right now.
Wow. I think this is the first time someone put me on the spot. Let's see, what do we got? No legs, one arm, but I get everything. And as in thing, I mean the mindset. The majority of the world is handicapped by what the mind says. Do you see? Do you see? Oh, that's a lot. Do you see? Do you see? Mind's superpower. The mind is a garden, so you better plant some flowers. That was one of the bars. That's the next song that's coming out.
I like it.
Basically, it's about psychology, right?
Amazing.
The biggest disability you can have is a bad mindset. So music for us.
Beautiful.
And then His Highness. I'll leave that to the unknown, and when it happens, you'll see it.
It's too big. We can't limit it with words. Yeah.
Whatever I have is bigger than that.
Yeah. Amazing. I think we're touching about an hour. Nick, I want to thank you for sharing your incredible journey and your wisdom with us. For our listeners who want to connect with you, follow your work, or attend your talks, where should they go?
Great. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Nick Santonastasso. If you type in Nick Santo and see a guy with tattoos, no legs, one arm, super handsome, you can't miss me.
Amazing. If you had one last sentence to put out there before you depart from this earth, what would it be? This is the only thing they're going to remember you by.
Nothing's missing.
Everything's there already. And with that, man, your life is a testament to what's possible. I honor you and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the Gladiator podcast, man. It's been amazing. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you for having me. And for those that are listening, way to tap into some knowledge that can change the quality of your life. It's been an honor.
The honor's mine. Thank you, sir.